Hello, once again. This is Brother Teacher, Grandmaster Stroud, and our subject is Bruce Lee and my martial arts system. So, this is my second live video here on YouTube. Now, I've been here on this platform for approximately 12 years now, and YouTube just gave me a congratulatory good wishes here a couple months ago on my being here for 12 years as a promoter, as a creator here on YouTube. And so far, it's been pretty good. And this particular live is on martial arts. Of course, this is my expertise, one of a few. So, if you want to know about Bruce Lee, I can't say I'm the greatest expert or authority on Bruce Lee in the world, but I know something about Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee was the individual that inspired me to even begin martial arts. But let me begin again humbly by saying thank you for joining this live in my channel by giving you my congratulatory welcome again. So let me know as you come in to the chat and the live by saying hello, well wishes, and so forth. So we're about 2 minutes in now. My name is Grandmaster Reginald Stroud Sr., affectionately known as Brother Teacher. Uh, my martial arts system is Jinin Do. Hi, Lisa. How are you? I appreciate that. 12 years. Yes, it's been 12 years, but I've been in the martial arts for 53 years. I'm 63 now. Lisa, are you a martial artist while you're here? I'm curious. I started when I was 10. I started martial arts. I was inspired by, hi, David, how are you? That was quick, David. I'm sorry to have heard that you had to have surgery, David, by the way, again. I wish you well. I was not even aware that you were going through some sort of issues with your hernia situation, but I bid you a speedy recovery. Hang in there. Take care of yourself. Watch out. That's great. How's the school doing and the students? Dave? Wow. Well, that's good. I like that. I've been seeing some of your accomplishments tournament wise, so that's good. I'm glad to see that the guys are still pushing. We hope to get back at it probably around mid spring, I should say. We've had a couple of deaths in the martial arts community here. Grandmaster Johnson just passed away about a month ago, and I missed his funeral. And of course, January, the first part of January was the anniversary of one of my masters, Master Maxine Watson, passed away a year ago. Okay, watch out! Congratulations, Chicago. I went to Chicago once. I enjoyed Chicago for the short stint that I was there. Well, well, we blessed be the Almighty. We come into this world. It's a blessing to be here. Oh, you said it was a rough city. Watch out. Okay, I bet it was back in the early 70s. I had a friend from Chicago, Kenneth was a gentleman, and they had some tough guys who were fighters and competitors in Chicago and even New York back in the day. I, I came up through martial arts earlier in the old school back in the 70s. Back in those days, we didn't even have gear. It was not even mandatory to have gear. A lot of people don't know that martial arts gear became popular after Jung Rhee, great grandmaster Jung Rhee of Taekwondo fame. He's passed away now, rest his soul. Uh, he created the first, or some of the first safety gear. It was called safety gear. Uh, Grandmaster not on. That's my great grandmaster. One of them, uh, Master Jung Rhee created the safety gear. Some of the first safety gear. Yep, that's true. Yeah, it was called safety kick and safety chop back in those days in the 70s. But we sparred without hand gear and foot gear in the very beginning. We didn't, men or males didn't wear cups in the beginning. We had some old raggedy boxing headgear at first. It was interesting. And then we started adopting that gear probably around the late 70s, early 80s. But Bruce Lee, as I began to say with the title of my video, he was my inspiration as far as martial arts was concerned. You know, I didn't do very much in the way of sports as a young child outside of volleyball. I was more of an artist. But the thing that drew my attention was really martial arts. And my uncle, Willie Bates, he's passed now. He was in the Korean War. He had learned hand to hand combat. He had learned combat jujitsu. And he was my first introduction to martial arts. And then around that time, he began to teach me in those days, in the 70s. And then when I saw a commercial of one of Bruce Lee's movies being advertised, no pun intended, but it just kind of jumped out at me from the screen of the television. And one thing led to another. And that's what I wanted to really do was martial arts. That just spoke to me. And the rest is history. And I became a Bruce Lee fan and a Bruce Lee advocate and a practitioner of martial arts. And I was not just uh, following one particular discipline at the time. Even though I went off into Korean martial arts after I began with Japanese martial arts, began to do more Korean martial arts in the beginning, and then I went off into Chinese and then Japanese martial arts from there. But Bruce Lee inspired me. So I've always had that eclectic blend of martial arts coming up through my journey. But I had some wonderful years in the martial arts. Uh, I met a lot of beautiful martial arts masters and practitioners throughout the years, many decades, uh, of many different disciplines: Chinese, Japanese, Okinawan, Korean, of course, and then American martial arts practitioners as well. I've done jujitsu, karate proper, um, Korean martial arts. You know, Koreans have never really wanted to use the term karate. I remember back in the day, people would say Korean karate, but Koreans never wanted to have an association with the word karate because that's a Japanese Okinawan word for the most part, because of the invasion of their country by the Japanese back in the early days. Yes, he did. Yes, he was a game changer. I see your name is Paulden. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly from where I can see it. You say martial arts was founded in India. You know what, my friend? Let me say this while I'm on this live here. I don't debate where something was founded at. So let's get that straight from the very beginning. Uh, we are human beings, right? Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and because we were not here in the beginning of this planet being created, so as far as most of us know, that the cradle of civilization was in Africa. So everything came from one place in the very beginning, and then it spread throughout the world from there. And let's just leave it at that. Most of us in America know Asian martial arts. And let's just leave it at that. So let's not debate where martial arts came from at this particular point. But thank you for your contribution. Uh, and I'm not beating up on you, sir. I appreciate you for coming in. Are you a practitioner, Paul? Then thank you, Jughead. I appreciate it. Happy New Year to you as well. And much love and respect. Yeah, I have a lot of followers from the UK and even from Asia and Africa. Thank you very much. Yeah, as you guys are chiming in, if you would, let me know what martial arts style and or system that you study while we're here, and if you're still active, and how many years even. And David, while you're here, I'm still talking to you, Master Chandler. How many years do you have in the arts, and how long uh, has it been since you began? Did you start as a child or an adult? And that question is open for everyone that's here while we're here. 1990. Watch out. 16 years old. I remember when I was 16. Wow, those are good years. Orange belt in judo. Watch out, Jughead. Do you still practice, David? I want to say you're a baby. Okay, I respect that. 35 years is a long time. It is. I'm I'm very blessed to have been in martial arts uh, the vast majority of my life. I started when I was 10. I'm a 60s baby. So it's been, this year will be 54 years for me in the martial arts. And being in the martial arts as long as, watch out, you'll be 50 in July. I'll be 64 in July. Or you're a Cancer. I'm on the 15th, July the 15th. My mother's the 4th, and I'm the 15th. That's a blessing. That's truly a blessing. Wow. I apologize if my feed is moving a little slow and I'm responding to you a little slow. It's my computer, so I'll try to get to your questions and or your statements as I see them come up and scroll up on my screen. I'm at my job right now. Yeah, I boxed as well. We did kickboxing also in my school. So our school was like a, a plethora of martial arts styles and systems, if you will, because we had our doors open to a lot of people, even former boxer. Aaron Pryor was a great friend of my instructor, and he was a good friend of mine as well. He would come down to our school and train at our school from time to time when he was boxing. I miss him. The Hawk, Aaron Pryor, that's what I'm talking about. Grandmaster Howard Bond was one of my instructors. Jerry Hill was my judo teacher. He's passed away now. Tom Henniger was one of my instructors. Rick Stewart was one of my instructors. Had several instructors over the years. I hope you don't mind me calling you Jughead, because that's the title that I see there, my friend. 57 years old now. I hope you're a healthy 57 years old. Yes, Aaron Pryor was a boxing great. Wow. Hamza Rushing wrestler. Okay. Now, what do you guys think about the UFC and mixed martial arts versus one specific art? You know, there are a lot of guys back in the day. Now, I'm older than most of you all that's already chimed in. It's only about half a dozen of you right now. But some guys, from my experience coming up, only believed in what they did. They only studied one art. For example, back in the day when I was coming up, guys studied taekwondo, and that was the only thing they studied was taekwondo. Or they studied Shotokan, only thing they studied, or they studied Goju-Ryu, and that was it. Or if they were boxers and they had no other martial arts experience, or they studied judo. Now, there are some guys who did jiu-jitsu. Now, unfortunately, some people think jiu-jitsu is just one particular thing, but jiu-jitsu has what we call ryu, R-Y-U. Ryu means schools. There are different aspects of jiu-jitsu, and the Gracies demonstrated that when they came to light here in America and across the world by glorifying the ground game. That's one aspect of jiu-jitsu, but there's many aspects of jiu-jitsu. There's pressure points in jiu-jitsu. There's throws in jiu-jitsu as well, and there's strikes in jiu-jitsu. There's crippling moves in jiu-jitsu, and the Gracies did not demonstrate that in the UFC when they came out. All they did was capitalize on the ground game for the most part. So what do you think about mixed martial arts? And do any of you, and have any of you studied anything outside of your own one traditional art? Okay, Jughead, you're a fitness fanatic. That's good. I don't know about the fanatic, as long as your fanaticism doesn't cause you to hurt yourself. Bruce Lee was a fanatic of sorts, if you will. What are my thoughts on Bruce Lee versus Bill Wallace? Uh, I know that's a hypothetical. Bruce Lee versus Bill Wallace. I've met Bill Wallace. Uh, I trained with Bill Wallace back in the late 70s when he was here in Ohio, Cincinnati's proper. And I was in a seminar with Bill Wallace, one of the kindest guys that you'll ever meet. Now, let me give a little backstory on Bill Wallace from what I know. Bill Wallace was called Superfoot because he couldn't use his right leg. See, Bill Wallace studied judo, and a lot of people don't know this. And what happened was Bill Wallace had an injury to his right leg. And so he had to rely on his left leg. It's not that he could not use his right leg, but his right leg was injured and incapacitated to a degree. He could not use it as well as his left leg. So his left leg being his dominant leg as far as kicking was concerned, he made that left leg be both his right and his left leg. And so hence the name Superfoot. So that left leg became his best kicking leg. So he became Bill Superfoot Wallace. Now, if you want to look at it from that standpoint, uh, him having just that being his strong suit, his left leg, and him and Bruce Lee, he would have been limited to some degree. Uh, but he was a kickboxer. Bill Wallace was not a tournament fighter per se, even though he had done that early on. But he was actually a kickboxer, which added to his portfolio, which Chuck Norris was not, by the way, as a footnote. Some people like to say Chuck Norris was a well-rounded fighter, which he was not. Chuck Norris was a point fighter, just to clarify. Now, Bruce Lee and Bill Wallace, to be perfectly honest, no competition at all. Bruce Lee studied the art of pugilism. Bruce Lee was a martial arts science practitioner. Bruce Lee studied the art of pugilism, of fighting. Some people do martial arts for sport. Now, if I can, if I may, ever since Bruce Lee came on the scene back in the late 60s, early 70s, he broke down the iron wall between the East and the West, America, that is. And he made martial arts popular throughout the world. It was not popular then. Then we had the movie with Lo Lee, not Chinese, but what was it called? I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Well, his name is Lo Lee. You know exactly what I'm. Five Fingers of Death. That's the name of the movie with Lo Lee. So when that movie came out and entered into the American market, Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. Of course, that came later, right before he died. It was Fist of Fury, Chinese Connection, and Return of the Dragon. When those movies hit, and then he started doing Longstreet with James Franciscus. He appeared in Marlowe with James Garner, if you will. He had a scene in that. Here Comes the Bride. He had a scene in that. Bruce Lee became popular here. He then, of course, the Green Hornet series with Van Williams and that. Bruce Lee started becoming a household word, if you will. Bruce Lee broke down again that East and West barrier, if you will, and he made martial arts popular throughout the world. And as I told my students, and I've mentioned it to them in time past, and I say this all of the time, he did what no one else had done. It's not that it could have not been done and it hadn't been done before. He just made it popular. Case in point, the nunchakos, what we call nunchucks or numchucks. The two sticks connected by cord or by chain. We call them nunchaku. That's the correct term, nunchaku. So these originally were farm tools in Okinawa, put together by horsehair. One used to be longer than the other one, and one was shorter. That's a long story. But anyway, he made that popular. It wasn't popular in the beginning. And I could go on about the history of the nunchakos and the tampas and the sai and so on and so forth. But Bruce Lee made it popular. And here you had a Chinese man making Okinawan weapon popular throughout the world. And everyone was making nunchakos and purchasing nunchakos. And everybody wanted to use them. And I used to cut up my mother's broomsticks and mop handles as well and make my nunchakos back in the day. And that's what I became popular for using when I was younger, was the nunchakos, and I used to use them in competition as well. And then people came up with the speed chucks and all of these other different variations. nylon and stainless steel and so on and so forth, and the octagon and so forth. And the rest is history. Bruce Lee did all of that. Yeah, Fist of Fury was also called Big Boss. Chinese Connection was also called Fist of Fury. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, I had a pair of those yellow Bruce Lee nunchakus. He did that in Game of Death. Watch out. You still have those. Watch out, David. Okay. No, one of the biggest debates that people had for years was a video that I did about Chuck Norris was Bruce Lee getting him started, because a lot of people thought that Chuck Norris became popular by his own self or on his own volition as a martial artist in the martial arts world. But no, Bruce Lee got Chuck Norris started by virtue of him allowing Chuck Norris to be in his movie Return of the Dragon, which was also called Way of the Dragon. Oh, you have him in your studio. Why would you ask me that question, Paul? Then I don't know. Did Chuck Norris beat Bruce Lee? Now, when you say beat Bruce Lee, uh, that question came up right on the tail end of what I was just making a statement about. I don't like to use that term beat in the sense that one person is better than the other, but this has been a controversial topic for many, many years. I love Chuck Norris. I have actually an autograph from Chuck Norris that he signed for me when he visited Cincinnati back in the 70s, the late 70s, early 80s, uh, when he did one of his first movies. I think it was called, it was Breaker Breaker or Good Guys Wear Black, one of those. But anyway, Chuck Norris, I felt, never gave Bruce Lee his proper due in terms of Bruce Lee being the one who gave Chuck Norris his start. Chuck Norris wanted to make it seem and or appear that he was equal to Bruce Lee, and I never agreed to that. Bruce Lee had the top billing, but Chuck Norris seemed as though he wanted to be equal to Bruce Lee. And anytime Chuck Norris had interviews with Arsenio Hall, Conan O'Brien, David Letterman, or anybody else, and I came up during that era, and I know this to be a fact. He always avoided the question when it was asked to him, "Did you and Bruce ever have it out or fight each other and so forth?" And then Chuck Norris would kind of like evade the question and say Bruce didn't want to go there and I didn't want to go there. And those are his exact words. And I'm saying to myself, go where? If you actually use your common sense and compare the two, skill level, Chuck Norris was nowhere near Bruce Lee's skill level at all. Not comparable at all. Bruce Lee was the superior martial arts practitioner above Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris was a sport martial arts competitor and champion. He was a champion. Bruce Lee was a martial arts practitioner of fighting. That's why he never entered tournaments, because he didn't want to get involved into sports. That was not his forte. So people always wanted to say, what championships has Bruce Lee ever won or been into? He didn't study martial arts to do that. That's why he had a book that he comprised over his manuscripts and his notes and so forth over the years called the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And you will see his notes. It was all based on ABC, attack by combination, and so on and so forth. His Bruce Lee's fighting method, it was all based on fighting. It's always been fighting, so that's who he was as a person. That's why when you see his musculature and all of the exercises that he had for himself, it was based on perfecting himself as a martial artist, not a sports competitor. It's never been sport. That's it and that's all. Hello, Willie. How are you doing, sir? Good evening to you as well. Now, I hope in my explanation that I did not offend anyone, but it is what it is. Now, this man has been gone since 1973, Bruce Lee, that is. And a lot of people wait till he's been dead all of these years. You have these masters, so called, and grandmasters saying that he was not a martial artist or he was just an actor. Anyone with good sense know that that's not true. We know that that's false. Bruce Lee was a great martial artist. He was one of the greatest martial artists that has ever surfaced. Now, there were other martial arts masters, and I've said it in my videos over the years, that were greater than Bruce Lee was. They just didn't surface. He was the one that came and exposed himself. That's just it. He was the one that we knew of. And as far as how he died, there was some controversy about that. But his mother back in the day, Grace Lee, when she was living, God rest her soul, she said that uh, he died by uh, a brain aneurysm. Consequently, uh, coincidentally, I should say, that's what my wife passed away from, a brain aneurysm. But that's what he died from, an aneurysm. So we can go back again. You know, some people say, well, some triad group assassinated him, or someone who was the master of Denmark or the death touch got him and hit him with a pressure point, and he died as a result of that. Some say he died of drugs. You know, this kind of thing. I don't agree. I personally, this is me, I believe that Bruce Lee. How you doing, T-Virus Terrence? How you doing, Terrence? Bruce Lee, in his struggle for perfection. Before I answer your question, David, before I answer your question, David, uh, Bruce Lee's struggle for perfection. Remember in the interview that Bruce Lee did back in the 60s, he said, honestly, martial arts to me is expressing one's self. I think in his stressing to express himself, he overworked himself. He was a father. He was married. He had two children, Brandon and Shannon. He was a movie producer. He was a martial artist. He was an instructor. He overdid himself. And that's what happened in his striving for perfection. And then he died at a very young age. And unfortunately, he didn't see the results of his labor when Enter the Dragon hit the box office. He died the week before Enter the Dragon hit the box office. And it was the most highest grossing film during that time, historically. It was. Enter the Dragon was. What would Bruce Lee charge today for private classes if he were still alive? Just by virtue of who he would be, who he is, what would he charge today? I think uh, probably as much as any other high profile practitioner of any other martial arts would, whatever the Gracies do today. And I don't know what the Gracies charge today. I think he would charge as much, if not more, than those people. Bruce Lee, we have to understand back in the day who he was. He was, excuse my expression, the GOAT. He would still be the GOAT today because I don't think he would have digressed. I think he would still be the GOAT today. He would just be on another level. I'm sorry if I can't answer it any better than that. I can't put a dollar on it. So whatever the Gracies charge today for classes, or whatever the top athletes in martial arts charge today, the big wigs, whoever they are today, Bruce Lee would charge at least that, if not more, just by virtue of who he is. And thank you, Terrence, for following me all of these years on YouTube. I appreciate you, brother. Much love. The greatest martial arts film, thank you, Terrence. He said to this day, Enter the Dragon was the highest grossing martial arts film of all time. And that's a fact. Now, I have to find that, and I hate that it ever got past me. Enter the Dragon had the greatest fight scene of any movie ever made, and it was in the book of in Guinness Book of World Records. This was about 25 years ago. The greatest fight scene of any action movie during its time. During that time, all the way up into the 80s. This was in the 80s, at least in the 80s. Now that's Western, that's any general action movie, period. Any action movie, Enter the Dragon. If you think about it, and we're not talking modern technology, we're not talking about computer generated anything. We're talking about just an individual, no tricks at all. If you look at Bruce Lee's fight scene in the tunnel in Enter the Dragon, that was all Bruce Lee. That was him. There was no cutaways. That was him. Of course, there's some choreography there so he doesn't hurt the person, or he limits the amount of injury to those people who were his participants, if you will. Jackie Chan was one of those people in the tunnel. Did you see how he transitioned from the elevator? From the elevator, he used the eskrima sticks, he used the bow, he used the nunchakus, he was empty hand. All of that was Bruce Lee. Did you see the transition? That was a great fight scene, and he did all that himself. And did you see him on the battlefield, if you will, outside where he was fighting the several men? That was better than any other movie that he had done. That Enter the Dragon was Bruce Lee's baby. That's where he had complete control over it. Nobody else had control over that movie but him, as far as the fight scenes were concerned. Oh, I see what you're saying, Jughead. Misbehavior of Raymond Chow and the woman, you forgot her name, was disgraceful. Cost Bruce Lee his life. Her name was Betty Ting P. That was her name, Betty Ting P. In her hotel room, they were on the set of a movie, Jughead, and Bruce Lee got a headache, and so it was stated that Bruce Lee had uh, an allergic reaction to something in her medication. And so when he had a headache, she gave him some of her medication to help him with his headache. So he fell asleep in her room, and a lot of people took that as her being his mistress. That's another story. Let's just disregard that for now. We're talking about the death of the man. So they were on the set of a movie, and he had a headache, so he went there to relieve his headache. She gave him the medication. He fell asleep. He fell into a coma. So she called Raymond Chow. Raymond Chow came. He tried to wake Bruce Lee up. Bruce Lee wouldn't wake up. So then they called the ambulance, and the rest is history. So they pronounced him dead later, And it said that there was a hospital that was closer, and they took him to a hospital further away. And that's that. Bruce Lee had 2 funerals. He had one in America and one in Hong Kong. Bruce Lee died at the age of 32. What would the Bruce Lee movie and Jean-Claude Van Damme movie look like? I think it would have been a great movie, David. Bruce Lee and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude, and not the reverse, Jean-Claude Van Damme would have complimented Bruce Lee's movie as far as his skill. Very flexible, very flamboyant, foreigner, suave, debonair type of personality. They would have done real good. I think they would have done good as a team in a movie together, David. Yes. Sometimes people think that, Terrence, you say that Bruce Lee was the GOAT and still is the GOAT. You know what? Let me say this, and I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, guys. Not that things don't change and can't change. It's like Michael Jordan, the basketball player. I don't care how many years pass. We will never forget Michael Jordan's accomplishments in basketball. And you will never hear people stop saying Jordans. And how long has it been since that image of him in the air dunking a ball been prevalent in the shoe industry, in the gym shoe industry, and people talk about these are Jordans? And how many years has it been? So do you think we're still going to have Jordans 20 years from now? I think so. I don't think they're just going to go away. So to say Bruce Lee is still not the GOAT is unfathomable. I don't think that's going to ever happen. I don't think anyone will ever replace the accomplishments in the martial arts that Bruce Lee has laid down. I think the mold was broken. And I give you another example. Michael Jackson was the greatest entertainer. Not to say that there were no other ones alongside him or underneath him, but there are some people who just have that thing. We call it the id or the it. And no one else can stand alongside them in history. You follow what I'm saying? It's like Alexander Bell created the light bulb, right? Nobody else is going to create a light bulb. It was already done, period. Now you can modify and you can add to, you can change, but no one can change the original. You follow? So what Bruce Lee did, what he created something and made us aware of something, not that it was brand new, it existed, but he made us aware of it. You follow? It's like one of the sayings that I have in my archive, one of my sayings, and I'm not saying this verbatim, is this: I've taken what already has existed in my system of martial arts and I've added and or attached my spirit to it. It's not that it's new. I've attached me to it. That's what makes it different. It's like karate, right? Uh, you can't create another karate style per se, because a reverse punch is a reverse punch. It's done exactly the same way. A front stance is a front stance, right? Now, you can change the way you move. Your methodology might be different, and that might be uniquely you or yours. That's it. A man can only punch so many different ways. He can only kick so many different ways. Your methodology might be different. So if you create a new system or a new martial art style, as it were, or system, and you have kata, pums, hung, that's what sets it apart from some other person's system or style. Is your kata or your form. But there's going to always be similarities. A horse stance is a horse stance, you know, whether you call it kimajase, kibadachi, or mabu, Chinese, Japanese, Okinawan, or Korean. Still a horse stance, side straddle stance. It's the same thing. Yes, they do have great presence on screen. I agree, David. Do I think Bruce could have survived in the octagon? Absolutely. Paul, then I get right there. Absolutely, he could have survived in the octagon. Now, let me tell you something, and all of you all that are listening to me right now, as it relates to that, don't forget who Bruce Lee was. Bruce Lee studied fighting. Okay? Now, understand this. Bruce Lee didn't do sport. If you don't understand or comprehend or understand anything that I'm saying to you, understand, overstand what I'm getting ready to tell you now. He didn't do sport. Now, when you say octagon, if you're calling it sport, Bruce probably wouldn't participate in it because he studied fighting, right? Why would he even participate in it if it's sport? Because if it's sports, that means it has rules. So why am I participating in something that has rules? Fighting has no rules. And if it has rules, I don't have a reason to be there because I'm studying something to protect myself. And when I teach my students, my family, I'm teaching them something to protect themselves. Sport has its place. If I want to do it, what am I doing it for? To win an award, to win some money, to have my picture plastered on a billboard somewhere on a magazine. What's the purpose? Think about it. And I'm the same way. I've had my share of martial arts competitions, and I let my students participate in tournaments, and I hold tournaments. But there's a demarcation line there. Which one are you doing? So you have to and you must understand that you have to make a separation between what is sport and what is real life. So I was in the military, right? I studied combat. You follow? You don't go out there for sport. So can you make the separation? So why would Bruce Lee step out there in the octagon? That's the big question. Why would he step out in the octagon? Who is he trying to prove something to? Because if he can step in the octagon, he could have went to a regular sport tournament, right? A point tournament. Think about it. So that's my answer to that question. He wouldn't get in the octagon in the first place because he would have to question why he's going there in the first place, because you're taking his tools away. You would be taking the tools of the person. I can't do this and I can't do that. The referee says I can't do this, but the other person might be strong in those areas, but you're taking those tools away from me. But if you allow me to use my tools, I'll dominate every time because it's real. That's it. And that's all. Don't forget who you're talking to. You're talking to teacher. So at the end of the day, Bruce Lee would participate in the first place in the octagon. Moses Powell loved the man to death. Sanukis Rue. How you doing, Megatron? Yeah, Grandmaster Moses Powell studied under Florendo Visitation. V-Jitsu was what he created. Grandmaster Moses Powell, under him, created Sanukis Rue. And then Grandmaster Moses Powell had students under him, Lil John Davis and Shaka Zulu and various other guys came around him at the same time. And Anthony Muhammad was one of those individuals. I've met him before. I don't know him personally. A lot of these guys have splinter groups of that same system of Sanukis Rue. But let me say this while we're talking about Grandmaster Moses Powell. I love him to death. I remember something he did a video years ago that Chuck Norris narrated back in the 80s. Grandmaster Moses Powell made the statement. He said, I don't care what your rank is. I don't care what your belt is. All I want to know is, can you fight? In other words, 1st degree black belt, 10th degree black belt doesn't mean anything. Can you fight? That's not going for bad when he made that statement. But let me say this. Can you protect yourself? I'm speaking for him now. Can you protect yourself when it comes down to it and the monkey gets on your back and someone tries to hurt you or your loved ones? Can you protect you and them? That's what he means when he makes the statement, can you fight? That's it. So that's the question at the end of the day. This is me now asking you out there listening to me, can you fight? Can you protect yourself? Do you understand the science of fighting? I like John Jones. Dana White made the statement that Bruce Lee was the father of MMA. Dana White himself said that. If you looked at Enter the Dragon, what did you see Bruce Lee do with Sammo Hung in the beginning of the movie? On the ground. What was that? That was grappling. That was ground fighting. Bruce Lee studied a lot of things as it relates to fighting. Bruce Lee had over 2,000 books on fighting in his library. He did not have them there just for show. And yes, he was ahead of his time, Terrence. And John Jones was inspired by Bruce Lee, and so was Conor McGregor. Let me add to that. Being inspired by someone great and being humble is two different things. And I'm not beating up on both men, but I will touch on Conor McGregor. I don't think, as a martial artist, being so flamboyant and cocky is something that's becoming of being a great martial artist. I respect anyone who has talent as a martial artist, but sometimes when we say martial artist, I use the term loosely with some people. I respect athleticism as it relates to Jones and Conor McGregor. Sometimes people get in where they fit in, but George St. Pierre, I have more respect for than I do McGregor because of his humility, seemingly anyway, his humility. You have some guys, they learn just enough martial arts to get in the door. They have no etiquette. You see them come into the octagon, they don't bow, or they halfway bow. They climb up on the fence. You know, they act unbecoming to someone who's supposed to have discipline and etiquette, as if they've never been in a dojo or dojang or kung. Those are all schools, in case you don't know that. That's not becoming of someone who knows martial arts, who came the proper way. They use all kinds of obscenities and they trash talk. And when I see guys smoking stogies or cigars and getting drunk and going back to the octagon and call themselves martial artists, I have no respect for that. I don't have to mention names. I'm just saying martial artists don't do that. Now, I'm not being funny, facetious when I say this, but this just happens to be me. I started martial arts when I was 10. I have never smoked cigarettes in my life. I have never drank alcohol in my life recreationally. And I have never smoked weed, marijuana in my life, or taken illicit drugs in my life. I have never done any of those things. And I have been a martial artist through and through, and I have never had a break from martial arts in my life. I've never taken a day off or a week off or a year off or a break or a vacation from martial arts. Since the age of 10, I have been a practicing martial arts person, individual, up until this very day as I'm sitting here doing this video. I have. Now, that's not speaking down on anyone else. That just has been my journey. But when I see other guys hanging out in bars, getting drunk on the weekend, beating their girlfriends, smoking cigarettes, getting high on a regular basis, and then going back to the gym, supposedly working out, getting ready for a fight. You get what you put in. That's it. Hey, Paulden, I see. Do I think Bruce Lee um, could survive against John Jones? Um, Paulden, with all due respect, because of the type of person that Bruce Lee was and the type of person John Jones was, I think John Jones would have gracefully just bowed out because of knowing who Bruce Lee was, honestly. And Megan, or Megatron, I'm sorry. I agree with what you said about Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, yes, he's another one of those heroes. He was a game changer. I agree with you, Megatron, 100%. There'll never be another Jimi Hendrix, not in that industry. Terrence, I see you talking to Paulden about his knowledge or lack thereof about Bruce Lee. And yes, Bruce Lee did fight in the streets of Hong Kong before he even came to America. And that was the reason his father sent him to America, to keep him out of trouble so he doesn't mess up the family's name, because his father was a very prominent uh, in Hong Kong. Caleb Kerr, how you doing? Who do we consider the GOAT of boxing? Sugar Ray Robinson was good, yes. Or was it Muhammad Ali? Sugar Ray Robinson? Muhammad Ali has always been my favorite, and most people that I talk to, they always say that Muhammad Ali is number one. And me personally, I say Muhammad Ali first, and then Mike Tyson second. I don't know who everybody else would say the GOAT of boxing was, but I definitely don't believe Floyd Mayweather is the GOAT currently. I don't. I believe he has talent. I know he's undefeated, uh, but he's not the GOAT. And I know we're talking about Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson being heavyweights. I know there's a weight difference and so forth, but no, Floyd Mayweather is a good boxer. I don't think he's a great boxer. I think he's a very good boxer. And I'm not taking anything away from him, because there's nothing wrong with being a good boxer. If you're a good boxer, you're a good boxer. That means you're not a poor boxer. Okay, Terrence, Jim Kelly, Jackie Chan, Bolo Young, Joe Louis, etc., have said they've never seen a martial artist like Bruce. And that's true. They all said that. Even the late great uh, Taekwondo grandmaster Jun Ree, who had many books on Taekwondo, and he appeared in Sting of the Dragon Masters with Angela Mao, who played Bruce Lee's sister in the Dragon. He said, "I would never get in the ring with Bruce Lee." He was a great friend of Bruce Lee. He said, "I would not get in the ring with him." Even Joe Louis, the martial arts Joe Louis, said that Bruce Lee and helped increase his wins in his matches. Now, Joe Louis talked down on Bruce Lee early on, and later on, he came back to himself and started saying that Bruce Lee had taught him some things that made him a better fighter. Joe Louis did. God rest his soul. Oh, Jughead, you say Bruce would last 3 rounds with a prime Benny Urquidez or John Jones. Okay, you're entitled to your viewpoint, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, and I appreciate it. Since you guys have been here, I thank you for being so polite. So far, you've been okay. I hear what you're saying, Terrence. I will say this too. High hip to the dip. It's good seeing you. I will say this to a couple of you guys out there. Don't forget to do your homework. I don't know everything, but don't forget. And if you didn't already know, I followed Bruce Lee since I was a child, and that was in the 70s up until the present. I don't know everything, but I know enough. And some guys speak as authorities on Bruce Lee, and some of these guys were born in the 90s and in the early 2000s, and they don't know too much, you know, and they want to tell you everything about Bruce Lee and don't know anything at all other than what they watched in the video or heard somebody else say. As Terrence said, and I do agree with Terrence, you have to do a little bit of research. And I have virtually every book that Bruce Lee's ever done. You know, I've studied him. I've met one of Bruce Lee's students. I've talked to some people who have trained with Bruce Lee's students. Uh, Ted Wong has passed away now. God rest his soul. But you've got to study the man before you start speaking with authority, if you will. One of the biggest takeaways from Bruce Lee's life is this: is knowing what his purpose was. What was Bruce Lee's purpose? If you're not studying what his purpose was, then you'll miss the whole picture. Getting to perfect yourself. His purpose was not to just slap together some movies. Bruce Lee's purpose was to express his martial arts system on screen so that the whole world could see him express himself on screen, on a big movie screen. He wanted to express his system of Jeet Kune Do on the movie screen. And he did just that. It was not just some choreography like a Jackie Chan movie, they had comedy in it and so forth. No, it was actually martial arts. Unlike Five Fingers of Death, Seven Blows of the Dragon, Fearless Fighters, all of those kind of things where they're hung by strings and this kind of stuff. It wasn't those kind of movies. No, he came as close to reality in fighting in his movies. Yes, he did. And if you sit there and you watch it and you dissect it, you'll say, wow, he just did this technique. He just did that technique. That's from Wing Chun. That's from Aikido. That's from Jiu-Jitsu. Honestly, if you study the man's life. Honestly. But some people don't want to take the time to do that. They just see it as theater. And that's it. All right, Kaylin. Thank you, Kaylin. I hear you, Paulden. Hey, Kaylin, I think you had some misspelling of that last statement about Connor on I think you were trying to say trial. Wasn't he on trial instead of trio for grape? Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Thank you, Kaylin. Terrence, thank you. I appreciate that. I should understand martial arts on some level. I've been doing it long enough. Man, I tell you, as I forestated, 50 plus years in the martial arts, 50 years is enough. I mean, that's a long time to be doing any one thing in your life. You know, Dale asked me the question, what I think of Kempo and the different Kempo branches, which is best for combat and self-defense, and what has the most realistic training system. Well, I tell you, uh, I'll be perfectly honest, Dale, Kempo, Ed Parker Sr., uh, many other people study Kempo. Ed Parker, the late great Ed Parker, created American Kempo. Uh, as a matter of fact, he modified Kempo karate and he created American Kempo for himself, his own system. Kempo is a very good system for up close personal combat. Uh, I know there was another group called Tracy's Karate, Kempo Karate, if you will. There was a branch or two here in Cincinnati. Uh, I don't know anyone here in the city specifically now that does Kempo. I don't know anyone personally, that is, but there might still be a school here But my thing is, whatever fits you, the individual, and works for you, the individual, it's hard to say this is the best martial arts. There's no such thing as this is the best martial arts, because people are different. Uh, there are some people that are tall, some people that are short or very short, some people that are stout, some people that are very heavy, and some people, as it relates to personalities and characters, are timid. And there's some people who are aggressive. You have to shop around and find something that fits you, the person. And it's something that you have to shop around for. There's no martial arts oftentimes that fits one person, where you can just go. For example, one could say, I'll go do Taekwondo, for example. Taekwondo is known for kicking, right? You might not be a kicker, or you might not be able to kick. It's really just that simple. And then there's some martial arts where you might have to go and learn Aikido. And then some people might say, well, I can't do Aikido. Uh, Aikido is not a martial arts, or it takes too much time to learn the movements, how you flow, and so forth in Aikido. And some people say, well, maybe Judo. Well, Judo is not a martial arts. It's up close and personal. Judo is something different. Judo, you have to learn ukemi. You have to learn how to fall. Then you have to learn the throws. There's a lot of throws in Judo. Then you have to learn how to grapple in Judo. What fits you, the person? You have to learn Ippon Sanagi, shoulder throw, Murota Sanagi, supported shoulder throw, Ogoshi, hip throw, Taitoshi, body drop. These are throws, Osotogari, major outside reach, and so forth. This is Judo, Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu came first, Judo came later as a sport, as it were. But it has some viable techniques in it. See, the best martial art is the art that you're looking for self-defense. If you're looking for martial arts, if you're looking to learn a system, it's for what reason? Ask yourself the question. Before you look out a martial arts or look for a martial arts school, ask yourself the question, what am I looking for? Am I looking for something to just go do sport? Does the school go to a lot of competitions? Is that what I want to do? Do I just want to rack up awards, medals and trophies and things like that to build my self-confidence and stuff like that, just to have some brotherhood, some association with some family, and to stay in shape, get myself together health-wise? Will this fit the bill? Build the bill. Is that what I want? Do I want to learn the customs, the traditions, terminology, these types of things? Or do I just want to learn self-defense only? There's something that fits everybody. So you have to shop around. So when you ask me the question about Kempo, what's the best art for someone? I can't tell you that. All I can say is, what are you looking for? Then we get into Chinese martial arts. Do you want something that's very flowery, that's beautiful? Hung Gar, Ting Xin Pai, Tai Chi, slow, graceful. What do you want? We can talk about that a little bit later. So when you can say specifically what you want, then maybe I can answer your question better. Do you want to learn how to protect yourself only without all of the extra stuff? Then I can probably direct you. Then what is your general health like? Do you have existing problems already, heart problems? Are you a healthy person? Or are you someone who have a whole lot of health problems? Then maybe you just need self-defense. You have to be looked at as a whole before you venture off into martial arts. You really do. You might have to consult your physician if you have already existing or pre-existing situations before you go up into martial arts, so you don't hurt yourself even further. I know that's a lot. Thank you, Jughead. I appreciate that. Caleb, how you doing? Am I familiar with Japanese Nippon Kempo? It sounds familiar. Nippon, usually you're talking about a point. Uh, I've seen it before. I have seen it before. I don't follow it too closely, Caleb. Paul, then that's one statement that you made that made a very good point about, I wouldn't call them idiots, though. There are people who take the martial arts and use it just for profit, and it shouldn't be just about money. That's just like people in the church who take the church and make money from the church. Oh, Sammo Hung. I'm about to leave you guys, and then we have somebody just coming into the chat. Uh, Buddha Master. Sammo Hung, love Sammo Hung. Sammo Hung was one of those guys that grew up with Jackie Chan and Young Biao and Young Bill. Those brothers are very familiar with one another. They did some movies together. Sammo Hung did a movie with Arsenio Hall, a TV show, a police show called Martial Law years ago back in the 70s. Martial Law, Sammo Hung was a detective with, uh, I believe it was Arsenio Hall. It was those two guys. Um, Sammo uh, was one of the few Chinese that you ever saw that was on the heavy side, that was very, very skillful to be as big as he was. He's very agile to be his size. And Sammo was the guy that appeared in Enter the Dragon in the very beginning with Bruce Lee, when they had on the Kempo gloves and the shorts that Bruce Lee pinned on the ground. That was Sammo Hung. Very talented actor, very skillful. He appeared in a lot of movies too. As I said, he and Jackie Chan came up together. Now, back in the day, Jackie Chan, uh, he grew up in with the Peking Opera. He came up as a child. He learned gymnastics, acrobatics, if you will, comedy, and martial arts, and stunts, of course. And he became one of the most popular stuntmen in his field. Well, guys, I have been here for about an hour and a half, and I'm going to leave you for now. And I want to thank all of you all for coming to my live video on Bruce Lee and my system. And I hope to see you again tomorrow. This is on the inauguration of our president again, Donald Trump, coming back into office tomorrow, his inauguration as the president of the United States again, and J.D. Vance as the vice president. But I'm going to conclude my live stream tonight. And thank you for all of your contributions and your questions and your thoughts. And thank you for coming in here. And don't forget this channel. And if you want to contribute to my channel, it's not set up through YouTube, but look in the description. You'll see my information there in the description under my my PayPal and or my Cash App. If you would like to contribute to make my channel grow here on YouTube, and I've been here for 12 years. I would appreciate anything that you do to make this a better experience for all of us. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Caleb. Don't be a stranger. And thank you, Paulden. And don't you be a stranger, even though you bumped heads a little bit with one of my other friends on here, Terrence. But we're all family here, so I don't want anybody to have any conflict with one another on not on my channel anyway. I welcome anything that you have to say as long as we do it in the spirit of brotherly love, okay? So take care of yourself. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you in the next live video. And be blessed, Terrence. Caleb, you take care of yourself. Paul, then you as well. And Bodhi Master. And David, I'm out.